Hello everyone. Yeah, I'm Lex.
Yes.
I'm founder of Entrepreneurial
Sure.
Network, and in this this Entrepreneur Network is all about how to connect all the EM members that are interested in startup, interested in startup business, connect with all of them, and connected also with the established entrepreneurs that are already in EMA community. And then hopefully you can find some, you can recruit some co-founders, you can work with others, work with tech people, marketing people, and then come together and create as much project as you want. And then maybe possible you can mentor by established entrepreneur like Justin. Maybe Justin has some time and mentor some of the startup. Yeah. So in this webinar, we're going to ask some very burning questions to Justin. That about his journeys on Ideapod, like how he created Ideapod, and then from a doctorate okay. You didn't finish your doctorate degree, right, Justin? Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I was doing my Erasmus Mundus doctorate, and I got about halfway through it. The PhD was in international politics, but early on in the PhD, I set up a website. It was originally called Research Nexus, and it was to help academics share knowledge online and build networks around what they're researching, so they can put their knowledge into practice. And one thing led to another, and a lot of people started using the website. And it got to the point where we saw a much bigger application for the website, and we can turn it into a social media platform for ideas. So we renamed it to Ideapod. And you know, halfway through the PhD, I realized I was much more passionate about building this social media platform for ideas. So it took a lot of time. It took a couple of years for me to actually, get the guts to leave behind the PhD without finishing it and start raising capital to build this social media platform.
I mean, everybody knows that doctorate, study, and then starting up a business is completely like a huge gap, right? There's a very huge gap on there. So, how's the transition? I mean, is it very? I mean, is it how? I mean, how you actually transit, and how's the transition from the doctorate degree, and then you have to give up your doctorate degree and then start up Unexus and then go become Ideapod? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's a question that many entrepreneurs face, or many would-be entrepreneurs that would like to take the plunge and build a business. In my case, I think there are a few things that were really important for this transition. The first was having something that I was really passionate about, something that I thought would be worth the risk and the time and the energy. So in that case, it did take a couple of years of Ideapod being a side project. It was in many different forms. It was once called Unexus, and then it got changed to Ideapod a bit over a year ago. But over time, I realised that there was a real need for this to exist, and people did want to improve their experience of social media, so that we can interact at the level of ideas rather than at the level of gossip or pictures of cats or whatever's in our Facebook feeds. People wanted something more. So the first thing was the idea itself had to be worthwhile, and there needed to be demand for it, that actually it would be a service to the world for this to exist. So that was really number one. The second was certainly the team. So, first and foremost, my co-founder is Mark Bacchus. Him and I went to high school together. We're both from Melbourne, so we've been, really close, best friends for over half of our lives. Since we were 15 years old, we found ourselves in the same class at Melbourne High School, which is when that began. So we've been really close for a long time. Mark's background is in the law. He was a corporate lawyer, actually in financial derivatives, a very good one, for many years. He's got a wonderful legal career. So, you know, for I guess about a year, him and I were working on Unexus, as it was called then, together. And it was a side project for both of us while he was a full-time lawyer and I was a full-time PhD student. And then, you know, we both took the plunge together. He quit his job as a lawyer, and that was a really big sacrifice because he was earning a fantastic wage, actually. And he quit that job to take a wage of exactly $0 for quite some time. So, you know, you can imagine the sacrifice there. It was a really big risk on his part, you know, and I think again it's a testament to the idea of Ideapod, the fact that, you know, it needs to exist. Mark has done a really good TEDx talk 18 months ago. We both did TEDx talks while we were in Bangkok. It can be found online, but Mark's is fantastic. It's about his experience of social media, trying to inspire people through Facebook, TED Talks and everything, and realizing that something else needed to exist. So the first point was the idea needed to be worthwhile and worth sinking all of our energy into. And the second point was having the support of a co-founder, you know, in Mark Bacchus, in that, you know, we both were able to take the plunge together. I don't think we could have gotten this far without egging each other on. So having the right co-founder has been really important. And then it's been about building the right team. So I have no web development skills at all. I've taken one course and realized that if I was to go and touch the code of Ideapod, we'd soon lose the whole site and people would lose their ideas. So we've had to build an amazing team around us, and there's a number of people working on the platform now that have made huge sacrifices. One is Gergo Edosi. He's our back-end developer, and he's you know, he's done an amazing job with the platform, getting it to this stage. Another is Peter Bacchus, Mark's cousin. He's been our designer the whole way through, and Ideapod, I think, is a really beautiful platform. The design is, I think, it's wonderful, and I think the users do too. So he's done such a wonderful job with the design. My brother Lachlan Brown runs our social media. So for anyone following Ideapod on Facebook or Twitter or other channels, you know, he's really managed, I think, to craft a wonderful message around ideas through these channels. And then we've got others as well, like Mathieu, our system admin, Uri, our developer, Richard, a front-end developer, that have been with us at various stages of the journey, that, you know, we just really appreciate, and we just couldn't have gotten this far without them. So, yeah, to answer, sorry, it's a very long answer to your question, but it's number one, the idea needs to be worthwhile, that you can sink all your energy behind. Number two, partner with the right founder. So having a co-founder, I think, is always a good idea. And then number three, building the team. They've been the three most important things in terms of launching the business.
You say that the first is idea, but then how you can validate your idea before you really kick off? You really, like, you know, you really kick off stuff.
Well, I think the way I see it, and I assume, and please everyone, I'm looking at all of the chats that come in. Hello from Mexico, hello from Singapore, and everything else. Feel free to share comments and feedback as we're going through this dialogue. Absolutely. So I assume that many people are interested in internet businesses these days. It's a huge kind of growth sector, or at least applying technology to pre-existing problems, whether it's design, you know, deliveries, whatever it may be. In the case of the way I see it is, when you're building a business, it's two different things. One is about achieving profitability so that you can then make money, basically. The business can make money to sustain itself, to then continue growing. And a second goal, which may or may not be related, is growing the value of the business. So based on an increasing valuation, it could be raising capital along the way to achieve various goals. to then execute on your plans and move it all forward. So in terms of validating the idea you've got, I think it's all about understanding what your goals are and then looking for signs that you can achieve your goals. So in the case of Ideapod, we're not so focused on revenue right now. We know we will need to one day, but our entire focus is on just building something amazing that people love. So for us, it's all about the community. And we've learned many lessons the hard way about what really matters. And this is what we've learned after a couple of years of doing this is, in terms of us being a social media platform, it's all about the community. And the fact that, I mean, we have in the audience here Christine Miller. I just posted on Ideapod 40 minutes ago to let everyone know about this webinar and inviting the Ideapod community in as well. So we have Christine Miller in the midst, and she's one of our power users. She's created 83 ideas since she joined, and there's only one person that's reached 100 ideas. So Christine has the second most ideas on the platform. She's created more than I have, and I must say I'm passionate about Ideapod. So the fact we've got these users that just love the platform, and I assume, Christine, you love it. I don't want to speak for you. The fact that these people are using the platform and love it, that's been the most important measure of success. So finding people that will love your service, I think, is really the key.
And then, okay, because since you already know, yes, I do, yeah. Okay. So Justin, you said that you know Mark like when you was already in Melbourne, right? I mean, when you're in Australia, and then. And you know him for a long time already, so that's why you co-found with him. And then what about other people like in the team, like the developers, like how you really like recruit them? You know, I mean, how you convince them to join you beforehand? Because beforehand you were just an idea, and you have any platform, this and that. So how you convince them? I think it is important. Try to convince other people, like for startup that trying to start out, they need people, they need other different kind of people, different kind of skill set to join the team and to build the team. So how you convince them to join?
Well, I think that the most important thing to recognize is that it hasn't been about convincing people to join me or join Mark. It's been about convincing people that Ideapod is worthwhile, and that it's a mission that we can all work on together, and that once we get through the hard times and the challenges, and there's been so many challenges along the way, that it's all going to be worth it. It's going to be worth the sacrifices that we've all made in terms of getting there. So I think, first and foremost, it's actually figuring out something that's going to be worthwhile, that is worth the sacrifices. And once we can agree that the vision is a great vision and that it's going to make the world a better place, then I think that's at least the very first step in convincing people.
Yeah, and then I see Ramis is asking about funding. Would you go for an incubator? Did you start with your own money or external capital? Yeah, maybe let's start with did you went for incubators or not? Did you?
So no, we've never gone through an incubator. We've applied for a couple along the way and been rejected each and every time. And at this stage of Ideapod, we're definitely open to incubators and getting assistance from funders, but we've never had that opportunity before us. So the answer for an incubator is
with your own money first, or you just started with the external capital? No.
Yeah, so I think the Ideapod funding story, it's quite a unique one. So when I quit the PhD and Mark quit his job as a lawyer, we both lived off our own savings for a little while. So in that sense, that's certainly a personal investment in Ideapod. And for me, along the way, I've actually been living on credit cards for big chunks of the journey, to the point where, yeah, the credit cards are maxed out, something shocking that I think it's actually a little bit crazy. Yeah. So, and it's not something I'd recommend anyone else do. But you know, and Mark has been also living off, you know, personal savings and other assets, which has been a massive sacrifice by him as well. So we've both certainly sunk in our own personal money or assets, whatever you call that. That's been a big part of the journey. Now along the way, we've also been raising private investment. So we've raised about, and this is over the course of 2 years, we've raised around $1 million because the team has grown in size and then gotten smaller, and we've learnt so much along the way about, you know, how to really do this properly. So we've raised private capital to employ team members and do all of that. So that all came from spreading the word about Ideapod, doing TEDx talks, going out to conferences, meeting people, and often when people are really inspired by the vision and can see that this will make the world a better place, and also that they've got the potential to make a huge return on investment if this all succeeds. We have had angel investors along the way contribute, you know, money for shares in the company. But I think the fact that Mark and I quit our jobs and our PhD and really, you know, put ourselves on the line here has given people a lot of heart, and you know, shown that we're in it for the long haul, and that, you know, people have invested $5,000, $10,000, $25,000, different contributions along the way, yeah, so that's how we've done it. It hasn't been a conventional round of funding where you raise a set amount, like $750,000, to then look ahead 12 months and achieve all these goals. For us, it's been cumulative, so we just raise as we go, which is one of the most dangerous ways to do it. And I've learned so much along the way, and definitely, you know, if I have another venture one day, if there's another platform, something else, I'll definitely do it very differently. But it is what it is, and we've learned so much.
You really believe the idea that you have. I mean, you really, really believe and committed to it. So I think people, like, you know.
Well, it just seems so obvious to me that there needs to be a social media platform at the level of ideas. So we haven't spoken about what Ideapod is yet. You know, really briefly, it's a platform for you to go to where you can share what's really on your mind, what you're actually passionate about. Christine, who's in the audience now, she shares her dreams sometime. So it's you know, whatever's deep within the mind, you share. And then you build a community around your ideas. So I feel like there's a great quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, which is, small minds discuss people, average minds discuss events, and great minds discuss ideas. And I think we get the most out of ourselves when we communicate with each other at the level of ideas. And that's what Ideapod's all about. And it just, to me, it just seems so obvious that this needs to exist. Like, we should be communicating with each other at the level of ideas. That's where we improve as human beings. We have more fun, we connect. And I'm not saying that this is, that we don't need Facebook and Twitter and others. I think they are phenomenal platforms, and I love using them. I really love them. I think they're wonderful. I just think that we also need a platform for ideas.
Very inspiration. Okay. And yeah, what about the legal side of the idea, copyright, this and that? Yeah. Justin, do you want to answer that one? What about the legal side? Yeah. What about the legal side?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. The question is
copyright and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, so the legal side, that's a great question. And basically, Ideapod, the kinds of ideas being shared are the kinds of ideas that you want to tell the world about, the kinds of ideas that you think people should be inspired by. So often, if we want to start spreading ideas and convince people to give meditation a shot, or to start analyzing your dreams, or to convince people that human rights is an important idea, or that gay marriage is something that we should all be considering. These are the kinds of ideas that you don't need to put a copyright over. You actually want to share with the world. You want people to be inspired by them. So Ideapod is for the ideas that you want to share. It's about getting the ideas out of your head and connecting with people on the basis of those ideas. On the other hand, there are other kinds of ideas that you want to put copyright over, that you may want to build a business around, that you may want to profit from. And I wouldn't recommend sharing them on any social media platform, because then someone can actually get the jump on you and build that idea before you. So Ideapod is for the kinds of ideas that you're not scared of giving away, where you want to really help change the world. And I think that we're going through a real shift in the way people approach ideas. Perhaps a generation ago we wanted to keep things secret and work on them ourselves, but now I think there are actually people on Ideapod sometimes sharing business ideas and hoping that other people are going to build them. So that's yes. So that's how we answer the question. And the other answer to the question is that whenever you share an idea on Ideapod, it's just like sharing a tweet or a Facebook status update. So there's no copyright over it or anything like that.
Okay. So scenario: someone put an idea for a social platform for gaming, and somebody goes and realizes it. Yeah.
So in this case, that's the equivalent of this person who has the idea for gaming going out to a local cafe and telling everyone at the cafe about their idea for gaming, and then someone else goes and actually builds it. I think once you share something in that way, you're actually giving it as a gift to the world. So I think if you've got an idea for a social platform for gaming, I wouldn't recommend sharing it on Ideapod or going to a cafe and sharing it with people, because someone may get the jump on you. I think that people need to exercise their own discretion in terms of what they share. However, this individual may share their passion for gaming in general on Ideapod, for virtual reality perhaps, for technology, and build a really great community, but they may keep their specific idea secret. But they may meet people on Ideapod that can help them realize it and connect with them, and then in a private conversation, discuss this idea they've got.
So let's move to the funding part, which is very very. I mean, first I want to congratulate, because in total, Ideapod raised like 1.5 million, right? No?
It's actually a little over 1. I think it's 1.1 at the moment.
Oh, okay, yeah. So
that's right.
We all know that raising capital for startup is extremely incredible hard, right? And then so tell us about how's your fundraising process went. I mean, I think it must be a very challenging task. So could you really share some of your experience, like how you raise this big fund? Yeah.
I think that that fundraising has been probably our biggest challenge along the way, and the reason is that it's been very difficult to communicate to investors the value that Ideapod's going to bring before the platform has actually been online and before we've actually had users. It's much easier now that Ideapod exists. We actually have people contacting us quite regularly to discuss investment in the company. And we're very focused on really only working with the right investors that are going to completely back us in this vision and allow us to do it in a way that the Ideapod community are going to love. I mean, I have no desire to put advertising on the site, for example. I was demoralized, not demoralized, that's too strong a word, but I opened my Instagram feed today when I woke up. And I really enjoy Instagram. I love seeing photos, from the people that I love and just learning a little bit about what's going on in their lives. And for the very first time, I saw a sponsored Instagram video by Samsung. And I was like, what? Initially, I didn't notice it was a sponsored post. I was like, this doesn't fit into my feed. It was a picture of a football match from a distance. And in the caption, it was, this photo has been taken with the new Samsung Galaxy camera. It has special zoom and things like that. And it was kind of an interesting photo, but I saw the sponsored tag and I thought, I'm just not interested in this. Like, I don't enjoy this at all. It doesn't add to my experience. So I think, in terms of Ideapod, the idea of introducing advertising, which will, debase Ideapod or just move it in a direction that, we think doesn't fit with the feel of the site, I would just hate to do that. So, we're exploring alternative ways to make money down the track that just fits in so much better with the whole Ideapod community. So it's important to us that investors understand that. But yeah, certainly it's just been a massive challenge, and we've just had to be really clear with the vision, with where this is going. We've been really honest about the risks along the way. It's a huge risk for an investor to invest in Ideapod, but it potentially has quite a decent return.
Since you have experience in fundraising, usually what kind of things that investors are looking for a startup? For me, for example, Ideapod.
I think to speak in general, I think the most important thing that people need is a return on investment. They need to know that you've got a very clear plan for how you're going to give their money back and then some more. Because it's a big risk for people to trust you with their savings, with something they've worked very hard to build up. And I know, it's something that we're extremely grateful for when people take the risk with us and help us, achieve this goal together. So I think that for any entrepreneurs out there, you need to be really, really clear with how you're going to get their money back to the investors. In our case, that's been through growing the value of Ideapod. So we often, we've done a lot of research in social media. We understand really well a lot of successful examples of similar kinds of platforms that have been sold along the way. So there's one great example. It's one called Behance, Behance, which is a social network for creatives. And they were acquired by Adobe, I think, for $160 million a few years ago. So they're an example that we've told investors quite a lot about, in that Ideapod may be a similar kind of platform. Now, we've got no desire to sell this platform along the way, but it's very important that investors understand that this is the direction that it may go, which could be very, very good for the investors. So for us, we've tried to be really clear about the potential here.
So it's about the return over investment, the ROI.
Yes, yeah, I think the return on investment. I think in general, it always helps whenever you're trying to achieve a goal is to put yourself in the mind of the person that you're speaking to, or into the mind of the person you're trying to influence, and to understand the situation from their perspective and just imagine how they would see this is really the most important thing that anyone can do. So from the perspective of an investor, what they're entirely focused on is getting a return.
I do know that some investors, they invest in people other than invest in the people, right?
Well, so I think first and foremost, the investor would like to see a return on investment. And then once you realize that, then it's about how to make clear to them that they stand a very good chance of making that return on investment. So in the case of Mark and I think the fact that we're so committed and that we've made so many personal sacrifices along the way, it definitely breeds trust, and it shows how committed we are. So I'm sure I don't underestimate the fact that that they're investing not only in Ideapod but in what they perceive as our ability to pull this off and to make this a success. I think that's certainly part of it.
So so far, I mean, you were consultant before, right, Justin? Right, and after that, you go for PhD, and then now you become entrepreneur. So how's the life? I mean, how's the life as an entrepreneur? People want to know,
I think the life of an entrepreneur, it's a funny question. I think for me, it's funny. I often remark to friends around me. I really feel like today is the happiest day of my life, and every day always just seems to get better and better. Like every day, I just feel great. And there's so many challenges at the moment. The challenges just seem to continue, and it's almost like the growth of Ideapod continues. People love it more and more, and at the same time, the challenges continue and seem to amplify and get greater. And it just feels like a full life where you're learning and growing so much. And I just feel so lucky to be in this position. And the other part is like, Ideapod itself is existing in a different way than we ever expected. So we designed it differently. It's kind of gotten to this point, and now we know all of the Ideapod community, and they know us. And it's kind of funny the way it develops. Like as we all know each other, we're learning from each other. And I met up with two of our earliest users and most prolific users in Melbourne recently. There's a user called Deep Thinker and another called Damien Maratti, and they'd never met each other before. And we brought them together. Myself and Lachlan, my brother, who also uses Ideapod a lot, we arranged a bar to meet up at in the centre of Melbourne, and we all got together. Also, David Shrews came and a couple of other users. We all got together, and it was really a wonderful experience because they knew each other very well from Ideapod and actually met in person. And for me, it was such a satisfying moment because Ideapod has brought these people together in a way that I think Facebook and Twitter could never do, or even a dating website can't make these kinds of human connections. So, for things like that to be happening, just make the whole journey really worthwhile. Wow. And very, very satisfying.
I think all of us should be entrepreneurs as soon as possible, no?
So there's a great question here by Vamis, which is about how we plan on capitalizing on the users. Really don't see this as capitalizing on the users, but as the users and us all working together to achieve this, this vision. And, perhaps Christine can share, and for those of you who have just come, Christine Miller here is one of our users. I just posted on Ideapod and invited anyone to come and join us, and Christine has jumped onto the call. So I think, it's all about working with the users to achieve this goal together. So we're running a Kickstarter campaign, a crowdfunding campaign through October. For those of you who may have heard of Jason Silva, he's a really fantastic, artist, and he makes 2-minute videos. And his team have helped make our Kickstarter video, it's shaping up pretty well. We're going to launch the campaign in early October. So, and this money will be used to build our mobile app, which will help people make video ideas. So I think we'll, we anticipate some funding coming in through that. We're also looking at for after the Kickstarter campaign, community donations for users to become Ideapod citizens, which will be totally voluntary. There'll be something like a suggested donation for $10 a month. And for the users that contribute, they'll get a couple of extra features which will help enhance their exposure for their ideas on the site. They may also get something like an email with the cutting edge ideas, the ideas that are being most commented on and discussed and most viewed. They'll make it a daily or a weekly digest, which helps those users be really at the cutting edge of Ideapod as it grows, to be kind of in on the best conversations, and perhaps the ability to create meetups. We haven't figured out the details yet, but it makes it similar to LinkedIn or Evernote in that, for let's say $10 a month, but we'll figure out the details. You actually get a couple of extra features which enhance your experience of the site. And we think that may be a really nice model which aligns Ideapod with the community, in that we're committed to delivering a great experience, but it's voluntary. People can still use Ideapod and have an amazing time for free, but the contributors become Ideapod citizens and hopefully then get an even better experience. So, Christine, I would love your thoughts on what you think of that. It's not something we're going to go ahead with without discussing it with the community. It's just an idea at this stage. We have many other ideas, so that's how one way that we anticipate on generating.
I think a lot of things coming up in Ideapod, right? I think. Well, yeah. Please let us know about the Kickstarter campaign soon when you post it. So we will be promoting in Entrepreneur Network. Yeah. I think. Yeah. No problem.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that would be great. Jocelyn asked a very interesting question as well. Does your EM experience inspire you for Ideapod? And maybe in some way, right?
Right, yeah, that's a great question, Joseline. I think that, so I initially did an Erasmus Mundus Masters in Global Studies. So I studied for 1 year. Yeah, so I did that from 2006 to 2008. I did 1 year at the University of Wrocław in Poland. And then I did 1 year at the London School of Economics in the United Kingdom, and I studied global history in London in the economic history department. So I would say that yes, my studies helped me understand that global history, that the biggest driver for human progress has always been ideas. So there's some amazing stories about how the ideas of gunpowder and paper-based currency, paper itself, originated in China and then actually made it across to Europe. And then gunpowder totally changed Europe as all of the different empires and countries went to war with each other. And it kind of helped them modernize and defend and build different kinds of societies. So these ideas spread from China to Europe and changed Europe forever. And then ideas, for example, around the steam engine helped Europe or the United Kingdom to industrialize first, achieve huge economic growth, but also totally transform labor relations so that, we had the rise of communism, socialism. But it's these ideas around industrialization that completely transformed Europe, and then they spread across the world. So essentially China's economic miracle has been about China modernizing and industrializing much later than others, which helps them play catch up. But once they've caught up, it's really, I think it's ideas and technology that's going to lead the way forward as we create a better future together. And it's also ideas around values and ideals like human rights, universal suffrage, racial equality. These all begin as ideas that gain traction in society. So my Erasmus Mundus studies really taught me, I think, about the importance of ideas in history, and that it's ideas that are going to change the future. So that's been a huge influence. Secondly, I've met some wonderful friends in Europe that I still, keep in very close contact with. and I'll be going to see a good friend in Boulder, Colorado soon. She's doing her PhD there, who I met in London, back in the day. Got some great friends in Los Angeles whenever I'm there. From the PhD, I went to a wedding just outside Madrid a few months ago, very close friend. Wonderful friends living in Berlin and Oslo and other places in Aarhus. So I feel so fortunate to have these wonderful friends that I've still kept in touch with. And thirdly, so first, learning about the importance of ideas in history. Secondly, close personal relationships. And I think third is understanding what Europe really is. I think it's something that people outside Europe don't have such a good understanding of. It's very difficult to understand this entity of the European Union and how revolutionary it really is for countries to come together and pool sovereignty, after the Second World War for the purpose of avoiding, another calamity like this is a very inspiring project, from some great visionaries, and for the population to kind of buy into this and support it. It's something that's not universally accepted through Europe. There's a lot of challenge from Eurosceptics and kind of fringe parties rising up to challenge it. But it's, and there's, like everything, there's so much more complication than, than just sharing this in a few sentences. But it's, that was a fantastic, human project to learn about and be inspired by.
Wow, absolutely. So, why in New York? Justin, why in New York? Why not in UK or in Melbourne or in San Francisco? Yeah, why not?
Yeah. So, and just before I answer that question, thanks, Christine, for the comment there. I really appreciate that response to what I said before. So, thank you, Christine. So why New York? So we initially we set up Ideapod in the United Kingdom, and it was certainly an option to stick with Europe. We had a lot of support from the European Commission and people around there, but Ideapod is global, and our ambitions with Ideapod are completely global, and that's it's really important to us that Ideapod has a global reach. So the reasons that we decided to move to America are that number one, Ideapod is a very risky idea, and it's quite a big picture idea, and we don't have a clear revenue model, and that scares away investors. And I think that there are bigger risk takers in the United States. There are bigger, and by risk takers, I also mean that there are many more investors that can see the opportunity here and see that the risk will be worthwhile. So our access to capital, we thought, would be greater here in the United States. I'm not totally sure that experience has proven to be correct. I think that that what we've learned is that it's all about finding the right investors that are inspired by the same things we are. And I think those people are everywhere, but they're very hard to find. So we have investors from Australia, from Europe, from the United States, really all around the place. I think Ideapod's about to enter into a pretty massive growth phase soon. And I think that, that the decision to move to America will prove to have been a good one. Because we'll be, I think, raising, quite significant institutional capital, and this probably will be the right place. The second reason for New York, for the United States, is that I think that with social media platforms, America has a great tradition of being early adopters, early supporters of new ideas. And I think that this would have been more difficult to get off the ground in Europe. So it has felt like America would be the right place to launch something new. And thirdly, New York. We never intended to base ourselves in New York. We actually wanted to live in California, in Los Angeles or San Francisco. A big reason with Los Angeles was the weather. Mark and I are Australian, and we just love good weather and being near the beach. And just for better or worse, we got to New York after traveling around, and this is where all our best meetings were. This is where all the support was. And my God, after being here a year, I can tell you, if anyone, please come and visit New York. It is an amazing place. It is really inspiring. The people are phenomenal. There's a real community here, and they really love New York.
Okay. And okay, you could open your platform for market research. I needed a suggestion from Rami.
Yeah, thanks for this. That's a really great suggestion. And the suggestion is that we open our platform for market research, where companies ask users questions and they can have a great discussion. I think that's a really good idea. And the litmus test of anything we do is, does this new revenue stream actually enhance the experience of users, or does it detract from the experience? So in my case, having Samsung advertise on Instagram really detracts from my experience. The advertising on Facebook detracts from my experience. The advertising on Google detracts from my experience. But if the advertising or market research enhanced my experience, like it helped me connect with Samsung or Lufthansa or a big brand, and I was getting something out of it myself, then yeah, I think that there's many things we could do, and that certainly could be one of them. Exactly, and with Ideapod, it would be a two-way discussion, which would be so much more satisfying for the users. And again, Christine, would love your thoughts on something like this, whether you think it would be a good idea. But yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Rami. And okay. And Justin, you were talking about some of the supporters are from like from the States, and then from Australia, and also from Europe. I mean, how you find them? I mean, like the investor, right? Yeah, how you find them?
There's this. It's a great question, and this is for anyone listening. And I know the viewers and the participants to the webinar are the people that would like to start a business themselves and get started on the entrepreneurship journey. And I think there's actually a great post on Ideapod by my co-founder Mark. And I'm going to put the link into the chat box. If you just wait one moment. Let me just make sure this is the one. Yes. Okay, it is. Okay.
Okay.
So there, I've just put a link into the chat bar. And in this post, Mark's asking, do we really need to wait? And I think that the advice is fantastic, that really, if you have an idea, if you have some passion, there's no better time to start than now. It doesn't mean you need to quit your studies or quit your job. You can do what we did, which is to start it as a side project and wait for it to gain momentum, to really get off the ground. And then you can make the decision to take a leap. But I think that this post has a really great message for people. So please do click on the link and take a look, and where Mark's really sharing, his part of the story.
But then how you find those investors? Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So in terms of finding the investors, I think. So yeah, what I mean is once you really get started and you start telling more and more people about your project or your business, then you start learning about how to frame it with investors. And you also, you reach out to your network, and you're basically signaling your intent to create this product or service, and you're communicating your passion to people. And I'm sure that you're often indicating to people that you're open to discussing investment along the way. And when people know that you're open to that discussion, I think that they'll introduce you to investors in their network if they believe in you and believe that it's a good idea. There's a lot of strategy involved where you don't want to just go and approach investors before you're ready, but you also need the investment to become ready. So it's definitely not, it's not an easy thing to do. And there's a lot of failures, a lot of mistakes along the way. But it's something that, once you get started, that's really the best beginning. I posted on that idea a quote by Goethe, which is my favorite quote, which is really about how once you get started, serendipity starts to kick in, and people start to help you more and more, and people kind of like move with you in life. So I think getting started is really the best beginning.
Get started and then things will just come in.
Well, you still need a plan, and you still need to really consider what you're doing and why. You need clear goals. You need to understand the return on investment. So it's not just this airy-fairy, just get started and magic happens. I really don't believe that at all. But I do believe in the power of serendipity and magic happening while you're working towards a very good plan. But you need to be able to change that plan along the way as well.
Okay, I think I'm gonna ask the last question from me, at least from me. So, what's your advice and tip? I mean, like last advice, last tips for those people that in the EMA communities that want to start a business, want to start a project. I mean, what's your final tips and final quote? Maybe I can say a quote. Yeah.
I think when you know what you're passionate about in terms of a product or a service that you think will enhance people's lives in some small way or some big way, I think this advice of getting started now, at least as a side project, is really good advice. Why wait? Get started. It's totally fine to begin as a side project because then you learn, what you're passionate about. And if you're ready, take the leap. It's the greatest experience you can have. And I think that, worrying about success, it doesn't really matter. If Ideapod was to fall over now, which I'm very lucky it's not going to, and it's growing, pretty fast, it still would have been a fantastic journey, and I'm very happy. So just beginning now is great. For those people that know they want to become an entrepreneur, but they are not sure what they want to focus on, I think that there's some other great advice, which is to just become passionate about whatever it is that you're working on at the moment. In terms of building up an expertise, whether it's your studies or you have a job, just get really, really good at whatever you're doing, even if you're not that passionate about being an accountant. Let's say you're an accountant and you're not enjoying your job. Okay? I think there's real value in still, while you're in that job, becoming the best accountant that you can be, because then you'll find down the track that you can use these skills of being an accountant to build a different kind of business. So really building your skills in whatever you can is a very worthwhile experience that will stand you in good stead. I know Mark probably wasn't such an inspired lawyer, and yet his legal skills have proven to be really useful during Ideapod. For me, I didn't really enjoy being a management consultant. However, I think that what I learned about designing processes and organization design has been knowledge that will always stay with me and that I'm hugely grateful for. So that's what I would say. And a quick thank you again to Christine for this response. People can see the experience of Ideapod is we really do get in these conversations with our community, and it's very clear that the idea of market research being carried out on Ideapod is people probably won't like it too much. So we'd probably end up killing that idea if we had more feedback like Christine's. But yeah, anyway, so thank you, Christine, and thank you everyone for coming. There's my answer to the question.
Thank you so much. I think I agree with what you say, and I think that I'm so agree with the last point, and also Vami is also very agree with your last point that you said that even though you don't like your job, but try to do it, and then building your skills there, and then at the end, when you want to found a business, you may still need that kind of skill that can help you build the business. So I think that's a very, very good advice. Yeah. And so just to what about? So thanks to Justin for coming. really appreciate your time. And then I know that entrepreneurs are very, very busy, even in the weekend, right? And then, yeah. And then, yeah, for those that don't know, yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you, Lex, for organising the webinar. I'm really delighted to be here. It's a real honour to be able to share these thoughts. Thank you, everyone, for attending and listening. Really appreciate it. And please feel free to add me on Facebook. Definitely join Ideapod and connect with me on Ideapod. But just add me on Facebook. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I know the journey of an entrepreneur is very challenging and difficult at times. So one of the greatest things is speaking to people that have been there as well. So I'd really love to hear from you all.
So just to just to show information. Wait. Okay. Then yeah, for those that not yet joining the Entrepreneur Network, please join with this link. And also Justin also make a link like an exclusive for this webinar to sign up Ideapod, because usually Ideapod you need to get invite, right? Has to be get invite. So but with this link we are very exclusive that we can sign up straight away. And yeah.
That's right.
Okay, Lucia, yes. Yeah, thanks, Lucia. And Justin, would you be interested to be one of the mentor in Entrepreneur Network? Because I think when times go, and then there will be more initiatives coming up in Entrepreneur Network. So if you have some time for mentoring some of the startup in this network, just want to know.
Oh, I'd be absolutely delighted to help in any way I can. We're still very early in the Ideapod journey, so I'm not sure how helpful I can really be. But yeah, certainly.
At the beginning, because most of the people are still starting up, so maybe there will be some people that can guide them. Would be, don't do some mistakes,
Absolutely. Yeah, okay. I'm extremely grateful for my Erasmus Mundus experience and everything that's been provided to me. So the idea of mentoring other Erasmus Mundus alumni would be wonderful. And I also understand how challenging it can be in the early days. So yeah, absolutely, that would be great.
So we'll be in contact with you again, Justin. And then next month will be another entrepreneur called Victor, and he will be also giving like a sort of similar webinar. And then yeah, maybe Justin, you'll be interested to know him also, right? He's a serial entrepreneur. He's also Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. And I think
Victor Alexis.
Yes, I think you know him, no? Yeah. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. It's been fantastic meeting you here. See you soon.
See you soon. Bye. Bye.